What's up everyone? Today we are doing a two-part video for Knight Model's Harry Potter Miniature Adventures game. Part 1, this part that you're watching now, we're going to discuss how to set up and how to actually play the game, so we could actually look at it as a guide to how to play Harry Potter Miniatures Adventure game. Part 2, which there will be a link in the description below, and I also will tag it in the top corner, will be more of the component quality, the cons and pros for the game itself, and my overall opinion on it, so more of a traditional review. But with that being said, let's get down to the table and I'll show you how it plays. So the very first thing that you're going to do when setting up Harry Potter the Miniatures Adventure game is flip to the back of the rule book and you're going to pick a scenario. And so we're going to pick the starting scenario, which is the Forbidden Forest, and we'll go through this. And the reason you want to do that is because sometimes it will have listed in this scenario what types of factions you're going to want to use or what types of special cards you can and can't use in the game. So with this one, this is a basic scenario, and it is set up for 2 players to play, and you can pick any faction you want. So we are going to play the Hogwarts faction versus the Death Eaters faction. So you read through here, and it'll tell you how to set up the game. The way it is set up, I should also show you on the second page of the scenario. So here's the entire scenario with the rules and everything, and on the second page is a map of how to set it up. So we're going to set up that map in just a second. What we need to also do, well, I guess simultaneously, is now that we have decided we're going to do the 2 factions, we have to look at all of the cards of the characters that we own and sort out the teams. So if a team is going to be a Death Eater, they have this symbol on the back of their player card. If they're Hogwarts, they have the Hogwarts symbol, and if they're a magical creature, they have the magical creature. In order to have a legal team of that faction, everyone in the faction must share at least one trait. So I shouldn't say trait. It should share the faction between them. So in this case, all 4 of my characters on the Death Eater side have the Death Eater symbol, and on this side, all of them share the Hogwarts. So even though these 2 are magical creatures, they still share the Hogwarts between all of them. Now, if this one was just magical creatures, that would be fine. But if I had a magical creature and Death Eater, that would also be fine because all 3 of them are magical creature. But now if I had a 4th and that one was a Death Eater, these ones do not share Death Eater, so therefore it would be invalid. If I had Death Eater, magical creature, Hogwarts magical. So hope that didn't make that too confusing. So let's see what teams I chose. I chose 4 Death Eaters, which then you'll grab their models. I have them all painted up here. So all 4 of the Death Eaters versus the most useless character of all, Argus Filch, and the 2 most powerful characters in the game, Dobby and Creature. And that's because I also have them all painted up. So there's Dobby and there's Creature. So we will get started with building the team. So how do we build a team? Well, we have to agree that both teams want to use a certain amount of points. And this is not going to be a new thing to anyone who has played war games or skirmish games before of this type. So the Harry Potter universe uses galleons. And you can see on each of these Death Eater cards there is a 6 galleon cost right here, and then the Hogwarts team also has different galleons. But right here we have 6, 12, 18, 24 points versus 10, 9, which is 19, 23 points. That's a pretty even starting field, but you would pick a number that's usually an even number or maybe a variable of 5, 25, 50, 75, 100. The game says 50 would be a quick game, 75 a medium length game, and 100 a long game. So if we were to say, you could also, to be honest, you can do it however you want. So we could say this is 24. I'm going to need a couple spells and items for each of them. So we're going to go with 40 points. Now each team gets to build a 40-point team. So we are not going to focus on them at all. I'm just going to actually focus on a single character just to show you how this is done. What you then begin to do is look at, and you can do this drafting style, you can do this one person picks all of theirs, then the other person. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. This is all about the team building part. But these cards here have the Death Eater symbol on them. These ones, where is it? Here they are. Don't, but they are both the same. They are spells that you can buy for your characters. The funny thing about them is these ones are the unforgivable curses and can only be used by bad characters. Now, I'm not going to go into how to build your team to make sure that you have the best team available. To be honest, I'm not sure if I even know how to do that, but I will talk a little bit about building the team on the general level. So my Death Eater, I want my Death Eater comes with a spell. It's got Expelliarmus, okay? And then we have these unforgivable curses. I definitely want him to have an unforgivable curse. But the question is, how many spells can my character hold? Well, my character has here Mastery, Defense, and Cunning. Mastery is how many spells you can do. It also counts for how many automatic successes does the person have. So this person has 2 Elder Wands right here. 2 Elder Wands means 2 Mastery, which means they can have 2 spells. Well, as you can see here, they have 1 spell already. And then down below is a symbol, well, not really a symbol, but like a cutout for a card. That's where the second spell can go. So they can have 2 spells. Now you could also get items that allow you to have an extra spell. The maximum amount of spells that anyone can have, I think that is except for Voldemort, but I'm not 100% sure, is 3 spells. So that it says in the rulebook to a maximum of 3. So to be able to use one of these, you have to have the Dark Arts trait. So we're going to take our Death Eater 2, and we're going to give him Crucio. Okay, so now he's got Expelliarmus, and he's got Crucio. Okay, now that adds 3 galleons. So if you remember, we had 24, now we're at 27. If we were to pick a couple more spells out of here, you'll see some different things on them. Number 1, what you notice in the difference between here is here has a 2 and a diamond, this has a 4 and a diamond. This has a 3, and this one also has a 3, but this one's black and this one's gray. Then you also see this one has no upkeep, no upkeep, no upkeep, which why would it say no unless some cards have an upkeep? And then the range. This one says no range. This one here says range 3. It also has a cooldown. Cooldown 1, cooldown 2, cooldown 3. This one has cooldown 1, keep turning, cooldown 2. So we'll go into what all of that means during the actual gameplay portion of it. But the fact is that each of these spells have pluses and minuses that make the cost be different. But the Imperio Curse, Crucio, all of them, because they're the bad guy curses, they are black. Because the energy that you use is black energy. So let's say that this is the team that I'm building, right? I have these. I'm not going to take any items. I'm only going to take the Crucio Curse. This would be a terrible idea. But say I'm just going to take the Crucio Curse. What you need to do then is you look at your Cunning. 1, 2, 3, 4. You add them all together. And then whatever color that is, that's the color pieces that you get. Now I grabbed one from the game. It looks like this. So this is the little pieces of power, the power tokens that you get. Now, normally you would use those. I didn't like those, so I upgraded to some little cubes. Well, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's black. That means you have to take black. If it is white, you have to take white. Dobby, of course, is good, so he's got white. So he would get 3. Filch gets 2, and Creature also gets 3. So as you can see, they are much more powerful in their magical abilities because House Elves are very, very powerful versus the Death Eaters who only get 4. This is used to pay for things during the game, and they automatically replenish. But the thing that you need to know about that is if you pick a character who is gray, they get to choose, do they want black or white? And each round they choose to refill with black or white. That comes in down here. These have to be paid with black cubes. Well, black power. These gray can be played with black or white. And then the white ones have to be played with white, like Expecto Patronum. So Expecto Patronum has to be paid with white. So that clues you in on when you're building your team. You don't want to take, black or white if your character pool cannot use those. So then we'll look real quick at the items and what they look like. So here's Hagrid's umbrella. Sometimes they say, like right here, Hagrid model only. So only Hagrid can use the umbrella. Acromantula venom goes to anybody. There is some rules between rare, legendary, like this one, unique, and common. So common basically means you can have up to 3 of these. Your team can have as many as they want. The Time Turner is rare. There's limits put onto that. I don't remember exactly what they are, but you can only have a couple of them on your team. And then the ones that are legendary means only 1 per team. And there's not, I think there's only like 2. The Elder Wand, there's only 1 of those. And Nagini is for Lord Voldemort only. And then like Death Eater robes, only Death Eaters can use them. So this would be something that I would probably take. So after you built up your team, you then go into, and I should also say one thing too, that there's potions as well. So you're picking your potions, you're picking your items, and you're picking your spells. The spells go in the bottom here. The potions and items go up top into these slots. So here the Death Eaters can each hold 2. There's also a whole bunch of traits that are on the side here, like Dueling or Potion Master or Tactician or Dark Arts or Hero or Elf, Magic Immunity. I'm not going to go into all of those because those are in the rule book, and it would make this video 400 years long. But we will talk a little bit about how some of those things interact. But the whole idea is that you get your character, and then you just look at those traits in the book and see how they interact and see what they do, and you start to build in your mind what you're going to be able to do. So I'm going to cut away real quick and come back with the board set up. Alright, so now we are going into Handycam mode here so that I can show you the whole thing. So here is the board set up. And the boards are modular, so even though you are picking a scenario, you can choose to do them slightly different if you want to, without really any harm being done, as long as they're not, dramatically different. So you look up in the scenario, and one team has to be Team A and one team has to be Team B. And that's just for deployment. And in some of the scenarios, it matters. In this first scenario, it doesn't actually matter because there isn't any perk given to Team A or Team B. So Team A is going to have these spaces here to deploy in, and Team B will deploy in these. So before we do deployment, it's important to know what side of the board you're going to be on, because what you do is first terrain gets put out. And the terrain is just these little cardboard pieces that are given to you in the game. And you go back and forth between the team. And there are different rules for placement about how far from the edge they have to be. And some scenarios do not allow you to actually place terrain, or there is terrain that is pre-put there. That's going to be different for every scenario. But let's just say we roll off, we take a dice, and the Death Eaters, Team B gets to go first. So they get to place their terrain first, okay? And so they say they want this one to go here. Then Team A gets to go, and they say they want this one put here. And Team B gets to go, and they say they want this one put here. And the last one is going to be put right here. Now, it can't be put, I do remember that it cannot be put inside a deployment zone, and I don't think they can be touching each other. So that sort of sets that out right there. All right. Then we deploy. So you would go back and forth deploying. I'm just going to put them out because we're not going to actually play a game or anything like that. We're just going to put them out like this. And they're ready to go. Now, the point of this first scenario is to try to get the most amount of points in 8 possible rounds. So you can do rounds however you want to make them known, whether you use dice or you use counters or something like that to know when you have actually done the 8 rounds. But now that we have set up everything, we've got all of our characters. Here's all of our Death Eaters. Again, we're not going to be playing a real game, so it doesn't really matter if all this stuff is scattered all over the place. We've got our cubes for our Death Eaters. The hero team, they're sitting over there, all their cards. It now goes into the scenario of how the game actually plays, and this is the part where the game is going to actually be played. First things first is both teams get to draw 3 quest cards. They can put one back as a mulligan and draw a new one. So these tell us what are some ways that I can win extra points. So we have Find the Layer. When any friendly model ends its activation in a space within or adjacent to the opponent's deployment zone, I get 2 VP, and then I discard the card and I can draw a new card. I have 2 of the same card. You would have to do this on 2 separate turns, I believe. I don't think you could do both in the same turn. And then Priceless Treasure says your opponent places an objective marker within 3 spaces of any board edge. Any friendly model in a space adjacent to the marker during its activation can take a Wisdom 16 challenge. If successful, score 3 VP, then discard both the marker and this card. So, if we have a marker, I didn't grab one, so we're going to say this is the marker here. It says your opponent places, and you would do this before the game starts, your opponent places an objective marker within 3 spaces of any board edge. So they're probably going to put it somewhere way over here, way far away from me. Maybe even down here. Just make it really, really difficult for me to get to it. We'll talk about what a Wisdom 16 challenge is in just a second. So then, now that this has been sorted and both teams have gotten theirs, this will just sit off to the side and we'll just draw a new one anytime one is successfully done. So we're going to draw one of these cards here, and it says, Chosen One. Immediately add 2 power points to your power pool in the color of your choice. Now each character gets to do this. So I'm going to take 2 power points and put it in there. And this will get redrawn each time, but this is just the start of the game. We then take 3 of these, and these are like boosts. You'll see here in a second. We take 3 of these and flip them over. Choose one. +1 die in your next attack roll, or 2 free power points to use during this model's activation. The second one is 2 free power points of any color to use or ignore difficult terrain. And the next one is the same card as that. So we are almost ready to start playing. Almost. This scenario has a very special part of it. So first, we have to decide who has the most amount of cunning. The Death Eaters, we know, have 4 because of this number here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We added together. So we had 4 power points. We just added 2, but so did our opponent. But our opponent has 3 for Dobby, 3 for Creature, 3 for Dobby, 3 for Creature, and 2 for Filch. So that is 3, 6, 7, 8. They added 2, 9, 10. So 10 to 6. So they get to go first. What they do then is choose one of the models, not the player. They choose a model. They can choose any of my models or any of their models. And they say, you have to roll a test. Okay, so they take a die, and they're going to roll a test on that die. They can also boost it through a magical challenge. So we'll talk about that right now as well. But so they roll the die, and in this case we got 5. Okay. Now, if you can do a courage 4, then you pass the challenge. Let's just say it was this model right here. Now we look at courage, and courage is up here in the top. You have courage, magic, temper, and wisdom. Courage is 0. Courage is 0. Courage is 0. Courage is 0. What does that mean? Well, that means they failed the test. Because the test only is, this model is activating. Do enough models within 3 spaces of the model. Give it enough power collectively to beat whatever that number is. So if they had said temper 14, this model is 2 spaces away, this model is 1 space away, and including themselves, we would have temper 9, temper 9, temper 9, that's 27, they totally beat it. But it's a wisdom. So that just means that the 5 has to stay a 5. And I'm only going to show this for this scenario specifically because this is not every scenario. But we're going to flip back, and what you actually do is you look onto this results page. If I had passed the courage 4, I could have actually chosen a 4 or a 6. 6 is symbol. It's on the die. It has a symbol here. So symbol. But because I got a 5, I have to choose a 5 because I could not pass the courage 4. Centaur's Aid. Gain 1 victory point for helping an injured centaur. In addition, this model gains confidence and +1 success to its attack rolls for the remainder of the round. Now, we're going to pretend like none of that happened because we're just going to skip ahead. Okay? So, say turns have gone by, we're ready to fight. Because your models can only move 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They can't hit each other. Because in this first scenario, they only have a sight of 3. That means 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They can't actually even hit each other. So let's say a couple of turns have gone by and the board now looks something like this. Okay? It looks something like this. And again, I'm not going to go through all of the rules about how impassable terrain works and everything like that because I think this is the main part of the game. Showed you building a team. I've showed you how these cards work. Well, I'm going to show you how they actually come into play, but how you choose all the cards and how there's actually more of a game of this rather than just try to kill everybody. Say we're now a couple of turns in. I'm going to activate Death Eater 2. Technically, Death Eater 2 is this one here. I'm going to activate Death Eater 2. Say it's my turn. Death Eater can move up to 3 spaces. He moves 1, 2, 3, and he is going to attack Filch. So we are going to look here, and you can do every turn, you can do a simple action and a complex action. One simple, one complex. A simple action is to use a potion or to move. A complex action is to attack or do a spell. So it is always an or. You do not get to do both unless you have a card that allows you to do it. So let's say I chose to use this card. Now you do not have to use these cards. But say I chose to use this card and it says +1 die to my next attack roll. Okay? So what I do is I look first at my mastery. My mastery is 2. I look at what my spells that I have possible to use. This one says combat spell. If successful, choose one of the target's item cards. That card may not be used for the rest of the round. Well, Filch doesn't have any item cards, so I don't care about that. We look at Crucio. Combat spell. If successful, the target model suffers 2 magical damage. Now, that's what I want. So, I have to first pay for it. So from my pool, I take 3 and set them to the side. They've been used. I now only have 3 left. So now I'm going to try to Crucio Filch. Some of you might be very, very happy about that. But here we go. So I roll. What does this mean? A 3+ is a success. This is a success versus a fail game. This is not a damage game. The damage is said right there. So if it's successful, we'll always do 2 damage unless a card says otherwise. Like one of these might say do extra damage. And remember, this is always choose 1. So I get to add an extra die to my next attack roll. So what this means is I've got 1 success, 2 success automatically. This one is a difficulty 1. Difficulty 1 means that I must have at least 1 success to be able to do this spell at all. Because I have the 2 successes, this automatically passes. But now I have to try to beat Filch's defenses. So what do we have here? It is a 3+. So 5 is 3+, 5 is 3+, 6 is 3+. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I get an extra die because of the card. This is 3+, so that's 6. Any symbols get to be re-rolled. So I'm still at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I had 8 successes. Now Filch over here has 1 automatic save. And that's right here in defense. He has 1 shield. 1 shield means 1 automatic save. So now he is going to try to stop my 8 successes. So he has 1. Now he'll roll. 2, 3, rolls again, 4. So 4 to 8. That means that passes. Remember, that is not now he takes 4 damage. That's not how it works. You look here and it does 2 damage. So he now takes 2 damage. They have these little symbols here. And this is 1 damage. This is 2 damage. So he now has 2. There is then 3 damage and, 4 damage. And 1 and 2 damage, certain things happen to your character, like they are limited in their movement and stuff like that. At 3 and 4, they're limited even harder. If you ever take a 5th damage, your character is dead. Okay? So now he would have to stay with that unless he has a potion or a card comes up that helps him heal. So now Crucio has been used. How do we show that it's been used? Well, the game comes with these little markers that are red on one side and blue on the other side. And I actually have converted them into these nice little discs here, which I will be making a video on all of the upgrades that I did for this game. So this, I think, looks a lot better. It looks a lot more professional. And I made some blue and some red, because the flipping over thing doesn't make any sense. I think that it's kind of a nonsense piece. The whole idea is you're supposed to put it on blue when it's ready to be used, and then you flip it over as red when it's been used. But I figure just leave it off the board and then put it on when it's been used, and that's just the same. So it has a little arrow on it, and the cooldown up, it's been used. Okay, now let's say all of our characters go, and it's now the end phase. The end phase, any cards that did not get used will be discarded. And we then do the cooldown. So the cooldown moves to cooldown 1, like that. That means I cannot use this spell again. Okay? So then we start over again. We draw a new card. We draw new ones of these. And the pool is replenished. But now my pool is only replenished to the number I have. So if Filch were to ever be killed, the Hogwarts team would lose the 2 power that they had before. Now they would only have the 3 from each of the house elves. In this game here, specifically, we have cards like this that give different VP. It also says last wizard standing gets 2 VP for each model killed. And one of the problems with the rulebook is it doesn't clearly state does that mean that there has to be one last hero standing? Or if both teams have a hero left, nobody gets the points. Or if both heroes have it left, by still being in the game, you get points for whatever model you have taken off. But it says last hero standing gets points for every model that is no longer on the board. So the idea is that here comes round 8. I had 3 taken off. They had 2 taken off. When I start round 8, I would only get 1 point, which means I would no longer be able to use Crucio if this was my character, because this needs 3. I could only use Expelliarmus, which needs only 1. Dobby over there would still get his 3 points and be able to move and everything like that. To be specific about these cards, the first player never gets to do these. The first player is whoever has the most cunning. They get to go first. So Dobby would go first. 1, 2, 3. Maybe attack. Maybe I get to choose if I want to use one of these. And then the rest of them would get discarded because everyone only gets 1 turn per round. Basically, then at that point, if this was the end of it, we would look, and I had killed 2 models. He had killed 3 models, so he would get more VP. I would get some more VP for those. If any of these had been done, we would tally up those VP for all the ones that we had accomplished, and whoever has the most VP at the end of this scenario would win. If you were playing the campaign or if you were playing other scenarios, then it would go a little bit different. There are some other things as well, like there's cooperative campaign. There's also things that bring other models onto the board, like I think it's in, let's see. Yeah, like so Troll in the Dungeon here. The opponent places the troll model within 5 spaces of the board edge, and then the troll is controlled by the other opponent. And with that in the game, that's another way to score some VP. So that is pretty much how to play the game. If you have any questions, feel free to put a message in the comment section down below. I respond pretty quickly. And I will see you in the next video where I will talk about how much I like or dislike this game, what I do like about it, what I don't like about it, and all that type of stuff. And thanks for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more reviews and the painting videos for awesome little Dobby here. He's so cool. He says bye-bye.